1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Do I need to do the other one? Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello, hello. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. Is that a handheld mic? Cool.
Hello, testing, testing. Everybody can hear me fine? All right, so it's 7:30, so we're going to get this started. So good evening, everybody. My name is Daniel Little. I'm the Director of Elections for ASUN, and I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight. So there's going to be one debate tonight, and that will be with the College of Liberal Arts candidates. So with that, please refrain from booing, from clapping, all that stuff until after the debates, just so that time goes smoothly and speech is respected. So there will be a section for audience answers. So with that, we're going to have someone walking around with a box, and you can just drop off. We'll have note cards in around that, so you can just take a note card, write a question, put it in the box, and we may use it for the audience segment. So we will have a moderator here to facilitate these debates by asking the questions from the audience and the predetermined questions. So with that, without further ado, I now give the stage tonight to the director of the center, Jose.
Thank you. Making sure this works. Can you hear me? Yes? All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here this evening. I'm really excited to be at this debate for the College of Liberal Arts candidates, and I'm sure the candidates are very excited as well. I haven't been here at UNR for that long. I've been at the university for approximately 7 months. I'm coming from California, which is a little bit different, a little bit warmer right now, sort of, right? It snowed in my hometown, which is the first time in 40 years, so I guess some of the cold weather I sent back to my family. So I'd like to welcome everybody tonight, and we'll start off with the rules for this evening of the debate. The debate will be between the senator candidates of the College of Liberal Arts. Candidates are seated in alphabetical order by last name and will be given 2 minutes to introduce themselves and state their platform. The moderator will then ask the first senator candidate the first question and will be given 2 minutes to respond. Then the second candidate will be given 2 minutes to respond, and so on. After all candidates have responded to the first question, the first candidate will have 1 minute rebuttal. Then the second candidate will be given a 1 minute rebuttal, and so on. After all the candidates have responded, the second question will be asked, and the second candidate will continue in the same cycle as the previous question. The debate will consist of several questions answered by all of the candidates determined by the ASUN Director of Elections, and then, time permitting, we followed up by questions that members can have writing questions on note cards provided and placed to them in the box. The Elections Commission will choose questions randomly and only discard questions that have already been asked or deemed inappropriate to the nature of this debate. Does anyone have any questions? We can welcome all of the candidates to the stage. I believe there's name placards, so you can. Before we enter into the debates, I just want to ask if any of the candidates have any questions before we commence the senatorial debates. Seeing there are none, I just want to remind the audience if we can please be respectful today and that offer full respect to the candidates as they're responding to each of these questions. Candidates, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself and your platform. Wait 2 minutes for each candidate to introduce themselves, and we'll proceed in that process. So we'll start alphabetically. We will now move on to yes.
Okay, wonderful. My name is Patricia De La Hoya. I am a second-year political science and philosophy major. I am the president of the Young Feminists, New Feminist Org on campus. I am also the president of Nevada Voice for Animals, an animal rights organization on campus. I'm a huge advocate for social justice, and this roots my platform. Sexual assault, racial discrimination, and environmental injustice is just to name a few. There are many problems in the world, and we see them on a larger scale, but we don't have to look farther than our own college campus. These oppressions are systematically instilled into our society and are the root for problematic engagement and suffering. It troubles me when I hear people from this very campus say things along the lines of, We need to build the wall, bro. These Mexicans are criminals. Or even when I hear people use the N-word with the ER to describe a few black boys playing basketball in the fitness center. We see racism as a worldly issue, but it's right in front of us. No one deserves to feel unwelcomed on this campus. I want to be a part of the Senate to create a greater environment for people of all color, race, gender, sexuality, ability, and class. Another issue to note is sexual assault. As a sexual assault survivor myself, there are many ways to acknowledge this issue in respect to victims and to combat it appropriately. After reviewing the Title IX provisions, I know there needs to be a stronger push for support for survivors. Making victims go through the process of a live hearing is not progressive for their mental health, and the whole issue with the jurisdiction policy creates a very slippery situation for victims. There should be no limitation on where this assault occurred. Any victim, female, male, and our non-binary friends, should feel comfortable and safe to go to their university for help. Ultimately, my goal with this position is to connect all the dots of injustice and oppression in the society and create a plan of action for this university. I believe change on a smaller scale, the university ground, can start the domino effect of change that is desperately needed in our American society. I'd like to use my voice to accurately represent students on this campus. I see an immense amount of value in individuals coming together and create purposeful action. Again, my name is Patricia De La Hoya for the College of Liberal Arts.
Hello, everyone. I want to say thank you for this opportunity, as well as thank you for everyone attending tonight. I hope to get to know each and every constituent, as well as every single one of you. And I would like to introduce myself as well. My name is Connor Doyle. I'm a freshman here at the University of Nevada, Reno. I'm majoring in criminal justice, as well as a minor in English. I love coffee, sleeping in, and most important, civic engagement. After I graduate, I hope to pursue a career in law as a prosecutor or defense attorney, as well as run for public office one day. This semester, I was a legislative intern for the Associated Students of the University of Nevada, where I got to work closely with the current senators in order to learn how the association operates. Most importantly, I was able to see firsthand how the students you elect effectively represent the wants and needs of the student body. If elected, the platform I hope to accomplish covers a variety of needs that a college student could face while pursuing a degree. I hope to create programs such as a career fair for strictly College of Liberal Arts majors in order to give students a greater understanding of the possibilities in their chosen career paths. I want to expand PAC provisions to increase not only donations and effectiveness, but also visibility. Unfortunately, not every student is aware of the resources that are available to them on this campus. Next, I would want to portray the accomplishments, hard work, and talent of the members of within the liberal arts, especially the fine arts. By promoting and creating programs to showcase student work throughout the university, such as a monthly showcase in the lobby of the Joe, almost by the place where the black student books are currently. Finally, the largest project I would like to pursue is to work closely with the Student Health Center to expand the resources and services available to the students of the University of Nevada. This would include increasing the operating hours as well as support for sexual assault survivors. Again, my name is Connor Doyle, and I want to thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, candidate Doyle.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kevin Finkler, and as you can tell, I'm running for the 87th session of the ASUN Senate for the College of Liberal Arts. As this being my second year and being a first-generation student from a low-income family, ASUN has a tremendous effect on me. For the past 2 years, I've been a part of the association, 1 year being with the 85th session of the Senate, and this current year with the executive branch. These 2 years of experience have bestowed upon me a vast knowledge of the association. However, there's still plenty to be done. Normally at this part of my speech, I would list my goals as my prior candidates did. However, I believe in the grand scheme of things, my goals, in the grand scheme of things, lost my spot. Grand scheme of things, my goals are lesser importance than the needs of you all here tonight and those of you at home. All of your opinions and needs are what matter most. They matter more than what I have written down on this paper. The purpose of the ASUN is to be the voice of the people and to serve the people, not the other way around. I believe that the role of the Senate is to advocate for change on this campus and to upper administration and local and federal governments. This is why the work I will be doing will come straight from you, the students, not my goals. My agenda is merely an outline for change I believe you all want, but these goals are not my main focus. My main focus is all of you. However, over the past 2 weeks of campaigning, I have already spoken to many about the changes they want to be done, and I'm sure in the next 4 weeks of elections, I'll get even more opinions and ideas. If elected, this outreach will not stop. My vision is the position is to gather the increased amount of opinions from all of you. After that is where the advocating the real power of ASUN come to effect. Finally, important thing is to inform the campus of the work being done. This information is vital to the student body being involved with the process, something that is lacked in the previous years. That's why I'm running for the College of Liberal Arts, and that's why my name is Kevin Finkler.
Thank you, candidate Finkler.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Harvey and I am a first-generation freshman and gender, race, and identity as well as Spanish literature and culture dual major. This year I've had the privilege of working with ASUN's executive board under the direction of the Chief of Staff and Director of Sustainability, where I learned a lot about the inner workings of our student government. As a member of the smallest major in our college, I know a lot about what it's like to be misrepresented academically on campus. Historically speaking, Senate has been disproportionately filled with members of the three largest major programs, political science, psychology, and criminal justice. But if elected, I plan to represent all of my constituents, including those in the least populated programs. In order to do this, there are several goals that I would like to accomplish during my potential term. The first of which is that I plan to work with our dean and ASUN's PAC internship program to find more liberal arts-centered internships and research opportunities for the largest college on campus. Secondly, I would like to see a greater allotment of resources towards first-generation and undocumented students by working with administration to add funding to the programs like the TRIO Scholars and First in the PAC. I would also like to create a pilot program for outreach to potential first-generation and undocumented high school students. There are also some changes I would like to see made on campus holistically. One of the most prominent ones I would like to address is sexual assault by working with NV Cares and the Title IX office to provide victims with more support and also educate students on the reality of these crimes and just to really start an open conversation about this really taboo subject. And lastly, I want to promote sustainability by working with the director to educate students on how to lower their carbon footprint. I intend to create better educational materials of what can and cannot be recycled, as well as work with facilities to change the color of our current recycling bins. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidate Harvey.
Hello everyone, my name is Thomas Hassan and I'm an academic junior here at the university studying criminal justice based specialization. And I spent my last few years here at the university in a number of ASUN-sponsored organizations and was also elected to the executive board of one of them, that being the Black Student Organization in my second year here. That being the Black Student Organization in my second year here. Huh? Oh, just that? Okay. Oh, look at that, guys. For the last year and a half, I've worked as a youth advocate and a program navigator at a local nonprofit called Eddie House as an advocate for at-risk and homeless youth in our community. Other than working with that population on a day-to-day basis, just some of the things I've done in that capacity have been to work with our executive director and a former state legislator to draft a bill request that would expand access to a variety of mainstream services to over 700 at-risk and homeless youth in our community. Just in Washoe County alone, as well as I've also educated a number of people and organizations about the barriers our youth face to sustainable independence. That ranging from clubs and organizations, like frats and fraternities and sororities on campus, as well as then candidate, now Governor Steve Sisolak. If elected, what I intend to do is use that experience of advocacy I've accumulated over the years to advocate for your needs, both here in the Senate chambers, in the Joe, and out there in the community. What I'm sure most of you are aware of is that ASUN has what you can call a sphere of collaboration, where we work with local businesses to provide our students with opportunities, and in return, we provide them with a pipeline to potential additions to their workforce. What I intend to do as a senator is to work with my fellow legislators to expand that sphere of collaboration to better incorporate local nonprofits and remove barriers to student engagement. Primarily, I want to change the narrative that you can't make meaningful pursuits to enter the field you'd like until after you graduate. You attending this university should be the foot in the door that you need. We have a university full of talent and a city in desperate need of it, and I feel it's about time we promote policy that represents that. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Hassan.
All right, hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming out. My name is Tori Supple. I'm a first-year student here at UNR. I'm a political science major, go figure. I was born and raised in New York, and I moved to Las Vegas for 2 years before coming to UNR. I currently am a judicial council intern for ASUN under the watch of Chief Justice Kate Grosbeck. Really quick, my goals as a senator would be to make ASUN more connected, because I see a lot of separation between the branches. Being in judicial council doesn't seem very known, and I want to make everyone work together, make it more cohesive, so then we could help make a better environment for our students. And I want to give clubs and organizations a voice and what they think, and people who aren't represented in our legislation, so they can really benefit from what we have to offer at ASUN. I want to work on safety. That's a really big thing for me. I'm a female, I don't feel comfortable walking around campus sometimes, and I bet a lot of people can agree with me. I really think it's important that our physical safety is taken care of. I think we should feel safe physically and mentally, that no one should feel discriminated against on our campus, and no one should feel that they don't belong. I want our university to feel like a home to everyone. I feel at home, and I really want to spread that to everyone that I know, my constituents, and everyone else, really. I would love to just spread that feeling of welcomeness to everyone, new students, current students. I also want to work with our university's research center to help them increase research, because I personally would love to research something in my major, but I'm not exactly sure how. So I want to work on getting those opportunities for everyone at my college. Just really big, I want everyone to feel like they feel at home at my university. I think everyone could agree with me that they love UNR, and I want everyone else to agree with that and feel that sense of security and love for our college.
Thank you, Candidate Supple.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Izzy Westerman. I'm currently a junior at the university, and I'm double majoring in theater with a specialization in acting, and philosophy with a specialization in ethics, law, and politics. Throughout my 3 years at the university, I've been very involved with the College of Liberal Arts. I've been a Nevada Fit mentor for the past 2 years, and I'm currently a member of the Student Advisory Board through the College of Liberal Arts, and I also serve on the executive board as well. I'm also extremely involved with the mock trial team here at UNR, and it's the perfect way for me to combine my passion for law and theater, and I enjoy that a lot. I'm also involved in ASUN. I was previously a legislative intern where I got to work with a senator as well as all the other legislative interns and produce different legislation that I now actually have the opportunity to bring to the Senate table, as I am currently a senator for the College of Liberal Arts. I have 3 main goals if I were to be elected. The first one is pertaining to specifically ASUN. I just want to have more representation of the arts in ASUN, and as a theater major, I believe that I can provide that representation specifically, as well as increase the level of communication between ASUN and the arts. My next goal is to do with the university on a wide scale. I think that, my goal for the university-wide is to, College of Liberal Arts wide, is to create a peer advising form for all majors, because currently we only have psychology peer advising, and I think that's a really important thing that we can spread to all majors. As far as my university goal, I think it's super important to, pass.
Thank you, Candidate Westerman. We'll now move into the debate questions, and we'll start, like I said, alphabetically. Candidate De La Hoya, as the first candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. With the university seeking Carnegie classification in civic engagement, how do you think ASUN specifically can help create a student culture of civic engagement on campus?
All right, I think that civic engagement is a huge, important part to our society, and not only for students, but for people that are active in our society and that want to seek change. I personally do a lot of activism that I would categorize as civic engagement and volunteer work. In order to get ASUN to get the culture to change here, I think they need to make it aware that the students have a voice and that students can disagree with things that are happening on campus. I never see anybody do protests when there's something that they don't like, you know. A lot of people complain about things that are on this campus. For one, Title IX, the new provisions that are being proposed right now. nobody's doing anything but talking about it, and even if that, it's not enough. I think that ASUN needs to put a push on letting them know that their voice is here, and they don't need to just be heard through ASUN, through the Senate. They can be heard on their own. Free speech, then, is really important, and that should be taught at orientation. Students should know that they can and should voice their opinion, especially for those that are minorities or underrepresented in this university. It's really crucial for students to understand that they can and they should. I think that, like I said, it's really important to have a collective power and collective voice, and if we as students have a collective voice, we can make effective change. ASUN just needs to get it there and let students know that they have that, and we have the power, and the students are the change for this university. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Doyle, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. With the university seeking Carnegie classification and civic engagement, how do you think ASUN specifically can help create a student culture of civic engagement on campus?
Hello, everyone. So, as my government teacher my senior year told me, there's only a variety of ways that a person or a citizen can interact with their society, and voting is one of them. So as ASUN, we can work together to create a culture where voting isn't just oh, let's go and vote, let's get that sticker. It'll be almost like a cool thing to vote. I would like to create forums and different meetings and ways to introduce so that students don't feel as though they are at an obstacle or a wall where they can't talk to anybody. Us as senators, us as candidates, we can act as a liaison between ASUN and everybody and working between everyone. But if a student feels comfortable enough to walk up and say it straight to someone's face and say it right and portray their ideas, that's the whole goal. If we can create that using a welcoming environment, as my peer said, if we can use orientation, if we can even create 365 learning modules or anything like that will on Canvas that will teach kids how they can interact inside the university and in the community, that would be incredible, and we can really increase the way that students are able to get their voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Finkler, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. With the university seeking Carnegie classification and civic engagement, how do you think ASUN can help create a student culture of civic engagement on campus?
So just first off, like everyone is going to say up here, civic engagement is one of the most important things when it comes to ASUN. ASUN in itself is civic engagement. So one of the ways we've already started doing that with ASUN is the town halls, like Candidate Doyle said, creating open forums. So one thing I would do is, keep doing those, but keep doing them in a more frequent manner. I believe right now we're only doing them sporadically every couple of months. We've started in the planning process of having them planned out. But in the 87th session as senator, I would work with the executive board to create monthly open town halls, so everyone feels as if they have the opportunity to go there. And it touches on another issue, is it's not the fact that people are getting met by barriers. What they're getting met by is they don't know that they can come to these meetings. They don't know about these town halls. There's a disconnect between ASUN and the rest of the student population. A lot of people in ASUN, or not in ASUN, a lot of people in the student body population don't understand what's going on with ASUN. That's why I touched on in my speech was making sure that everyone on this campus knows what ASUN is doing, A, to hold them accountable, but B, also so that they can get involved in the process. Another way they can get involved in the process for ASUN matters is getting them involved up here, having more people on this stage next year so that they're running for elections and that they feel motivated to do this. We've done this in the past with Elector and this past year with Elect All People. And unfortunately, I think they could have been marketed a lot better and we can have higher success, but it's building off the success that we already have. My qualifications for it is I believe I am civically engaged. I'm up here on the stage, as well as during the summer I was helping a campaign with one of the major parties, so I know what it deals with creating civic engagement outside the university, not just on this campus.
Thank you. Candidate Harvey. As the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. With the university seeking Carnegie classification and civic engagement, how do you think ASUN specifically can help create a student culture of civic engagement on campus?
I think that to answer this question, I would kind of have to answer it in three different parts. The first, I would say, is to get students involved in ASUN. I think that a lot of individuals, I know I did, see this association as a very exclusive group of people, and that's not really what it is. The ASUN and the student government is definitely a very inclusive group of student leaders who want anyone and everyone to come into the doors and promote their ideas. So I think the first step is to definitely get individuals involved in student government. And then the second would be to educate students on the resources that are available to them. Like candidate Finkler said, that a lot of people don't know about the resources or the clubs or the student jobs that are available to them. And we have 300 plus student clubs. We have plenty of on-campus jobs. We have summer jobs like Nevada Fit Mentoring or orientation guides. And then there's also a lot of positions in ASUN that individuals can get involved in. So I think that if we just educate the students on campus of all of the different ways that they can be civically engaged, that will definitely heighten the numbers that we see of civic engagement. And then I think the third thing is upkeep. So we can have as many people as we want trying to be civically engaged, but if we don't promote that over the course of several years, the rate of our civic engagement at the university is not going to hold. So I think that we need to make sure that for individuals who are coming into the university, transfer students, incoming freshmen, I think that we should promote that as definitely one of the primary things that we are that we stand for at the university. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hassan, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. With the university seeking Carnegie classification and civic engagement, how do you think ASUN can help create a student culture of civic engagement on campus?
So one thing that the university does provide currently that I feel like a lot of people don't know about is that there is an existing online platform similar to Handshake that connects students to civic engagement opportunities out in the community. I feel like broadcasting existing platforms and getting more students involved directly through there and trying to remove that barrier and promoting that direct link to the community is definitely one big first step that we can take. Also, one thing that I've noticed from other universities and how they try to get their students more involved in civic engagement is they directly try to emphasize civic engagement directly through the curriculum itself. And so by promoting, emphasizing civic engagement through the curriculum, you're not only removing barriers, you're essentially streamlining the entire process. You're making the entire, you're incentivizing it through the form of credits. You're making it, one, a necessity, and two, it's establishes that those principles of civic engagement and actually engaging with your community at large. Also promoting transparency on campus and promoting engagement with ASUN is also that another big step that we can take, because ASUN, I feel like, does provide a very good link to the community in terms of through a lot of different methods, to be so honest with you guys, through like town halls and working with other organizations and then clubs and through a number of different things actually. And so kind of promoting that and getting more students involved directly, I feel like that's just some of the few things that we can take. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Candidate Supple, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. With the university seeking Carnegie classification and civic engagement, how do you think ASUN specifically can help create a student culture of civic engagement on campus?
I think for ASUN to specifically help, we have to let our constituents know that ASUN is more than just all the amazing events that we put on. Like, we're there to represent students and to listen to them and to help them. We're that liaison, and it's really important that they know that. So that's just one part. And then the other part is that I want to work with other parts of ASUN to get everyone involved in our city and then even our university, because there are some people that just won't go out and they won't participate, and it's just not their thing. But like, there are so many clubs and organizations on this campus that can fit so many constituents and so many students. It's amazing. I was going through all the clubs the other day, and it's just, there's so many, and there's just so many people that can fit into everyone, and I really think people can enjoy that. And then through those clubs, there's a lot of work that could be done to get them to go out into the city and be civically engaged. There's so many clubs that actually do that. They go out and they represent our university. They go out and they speak their mind, and it's so incredible, like what they do as college students. Like, there are so many people that could do that, and they just don't know about it. It's always said, but involvement is always important, and I think by letting all of our constituents know that they can get involved and that everyone in our college and our university can do what they want to do, I think that's really important to let them know that they have that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Westerman, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. With the university seeking Carnegie classification and civic engagement, how do you think ASUN specifically can help create a student culture of civic engagement on campus?
I think that the most basic instance of civic engagement that everyone first comes to mind when they hear the term is voting. And I think that that's one instance that ASUN can really help kind of create the culture and the habit of getting out and voting, specifically with ASUN elections coming up this March 13th and 14th. Last year, ASUN did a great job by increasing the percentage of students that actually voted from 23%, I believe, to 25%, and I believe the goal again is to raise it again to 28%. That's just one instance on creating that culture of increasing civic engagement. And I think that we also do that with town halls, as previous candidates have mentioned. But it's important also to not only create the culture that we want to hear the feedback from students and get that civic engagement, but that's important to us and that we take their feedback and actually do something about it. Recently, the Senate actually passed a resolution that basically summarized all the things that students had to say at the last town hall, and I think that's something that ASUN can really start putting into effect, is that taking these comments and all of the opinions that students have and making sure that they know that they're important to us. And I think that that'll really increase the culture of civic engagement on campus. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move into the rebuttal section. Candidate De La Hoya, you now have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
All right, I just wanted to say I think there is a clear mirror image between American government and student government. And I feel like a lot of people within our American government, as well as students on this campus, feel as though ASUN isn't doing enough to actively seek out what they want to be changed on this campus. I've been to the town hall meetings, and people voice things more than enough than they should. And they still don't see change, and I think that's why students are not wanting to look towards ASUN, because they're not seeing the change that's directly affecting them. I think that ASUN is doing great things, and I think that they're doing amazing things for smaller changes, but we have big goals and big changes that need to be changed on this campus: sexual assault, racial discrimination, and environmental injustice for one. Sexual assault is something huge, and it's a massive goal for us, but it's something that needs to be addressed, and if we keep pushing it off, we're never gonna get it done. I think that we need to tackle these issues face on and let the students know that we're actually going to take action and listen and make these changes, because nobody should feel unsafe on this campus. Thank you.
Candidate Doyle, you now have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
I just want to add a little bit more onto what some of my peers are discussing, because I think there's amazing ideas up here. Specifically, they mentioned events and how ASUN holds these elaborate and beautiful events for the students, and why not spin civic engagement into those events? If you go to a dance, if you go to a barbecue, if you go to a chicken nugget feed for Mackie, why not give them the opportunities to speak their mind? Why not promote that they are allowed to do this? Why not show that ASUN is more than just chicken nuggets? Also, someone mentioned the clubs and orgs. We can use those as voices for ASUN as well. Like, we can promote them for, here, join this club. Oh, by the way, this club can help you do this. This club has connections with this. This club can get you through to ASUN. And I just want to really hit the point that civic engagement can be influenced and spun into every single part of ASUN if we really try. Thank you.
Candidate Finkler, you now have an opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
So really quick, this is something I didn't even touch on, but not a lot of us are touching on, is what actually ASUN has in the works for this and the structure for it. If, for those watching at home and those watching here, we have a committee on civic engagement. We have a whole department called Legislative Affairs. And a lot of people don't know about these things. A lot of people don't know that they can A, go to these meetings, and B, get involved with these things. So that touches on my next point is, again, we have a disconnect between the students and ASUN. And a lot of the things we're talking about bigger is holding more events, things of that nature. But it gets to the point where we hold these events and not a lot of people are coming out. So how do we reach into them? I'll tell you how we do it, is we go into the residence halls and we come directly talk to them. We go into the clubs and orgs and directly talk to them. We don't let them come to us, we come to them because we serve them. Thank you.
Candidate Harvey, you have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
Like candidate Finkler, I would also like to address something that I think that we might have all skipped over a little bit, but I think a big part of civic engagement is volunteering. There's a online program that you can sign up to volunteer for through the university, and it's called Give Pulse, and I know that I am not very familiar with this site, and I'm sure not other people are not as familiar as well. And I think that one way that ASUN specifically can help get people out and volunteer is to promote Give Pulse and to promote other means of volunteering through the services that they provide. I know that ASUN uses ink blot services a lot, and I think that they can definitely use that means of advertisement to get information out there about what students can volunteer for and the different ways in which they can sign up for that. Thank you.
Candidate Hassan, you have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
Thank you. So I'd like to reiterate what my previous candidate was saying. The main thing is to provide opportunities and then broadcast those opportunities. We have to reach out to those local nonprofits that are actively addressing pressing issues afflicting our locality. And then one thing that we need to do is that we need to understand is that they do need assistance. They need help with what they're doing. And ASUN can act like, ASUN can function and we can operate as a pipeline for that assistance. And we can provide and broadcast. And that's kind of the main things that we need to constantly be reiterating and let them know that this is what your community is facing. And you are capable of assisting them in addressing those issues directly. Thank you.
Candidate Supple, you have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
Thank you. I would just like to add that if I were elected as senator, I would want me and my fellow senators all at the Senate table to work on uniting our colleges, to unite our university, and then to our city. Because if we get involved within our small groups as majors, just students together, then we could integrate into the city, which is part of the reason we have created No Walls 2025. If you don't know what it is, it's to get the university and the city to work together more. So I really want to help make that happen, work towards that goal. Civic engagement is easy, like voting, getting involved, volunteering, like all my other candidates have said. We as senators just need to engage with our constituents. We have to bring down that wall so that they can feel like they can get engaged like all of us are. Thank you.
Candidate Westerman, you now have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate a common topic that a lot of the candidates have stressed with this question, and that is bridging the gap between ASUN and our constituents or the rest of the students. I think specifically a great way to do this is to encourage students to get more involved, like previous candidates have mentioned. But what a lot of people don't know is that due to Nevada open meeting law, every single one of our meetings, whether it's Senate or the committees that a previous candidate has mentioned, such as civic engagement, public affairs, different committees like that, all of them are open to the public, and all of them are open to every single student to not only voice their concerns and engage civically that way, but to learn about what we're doing and volunteering opportunities that are available to everyone. So that's one thing that is very important for increasing civic engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you. Those are great responses. I'll now move on to the second question for the night. This time around, we're going to be switching the order up slightly. Candidate Doyle, as the first candidate, you will have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. As a land-grant college, access and affordability are key characteristics of the university. If elected, how would you work to address these core values for your constituents?
So, as a land-grant institution, we only have so much that we can do. We don't have as many resources as, say, maybe a private institution. So we really have to be smart and aware of the limitations that we have, but also the opportunities that we can create. Something that we can do to really explain and show our values is to show the students our sustainability, show our students our information and our values for what we want to do regarding land grants. We can put more research into the city, we can put more research into the world. We can create recycling and compost that will prove to the other universities and other students and everybody else that we are going to make a difference in this world. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Finkler, as the second candidate, you will have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. As a land-grant university, college access and affordability are key characteristics of the university. If elected, how would you work to address these core values of your constituents?
So really quick, not to go against Canada Doyle, but I'd argue that the sky's the limit with our university. The land grant program was set up and had limitations in the beginning, but we're at the point where we're almost 150 years out from that program. To me, access and affordability is at the forefront for me. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm from a low-income first-generation student family. I have no support from my family. If it wasn't for FAFSA scholarships or grants given to this university by the federal government, I wouldn't be here right now. So first off, the thing I would do through ASUN is promote more things like this. A lot of students don't understand that there are scholarships on this campus. There are scholarships depending on if you work on campus or off campus, if you're a certain ethnicity, if you a certain gender, things of that nature that students don't necessarily know about. So it's working with the financial aid office in that aspect to let students know the resources they have financially, as well as the programs the university has. First in the pack, like Senator Harvey or candidate Harvey mentioned earlier, is a program that allows first-generation students to easily transition into college life. That is a program that I love, just being a first-generation student, as well as PAC provisions, campus escort for students that don't have cars. And again, this goes back to my point I've mentioned earlier, and I'm going to keep repeating it tonight, folks, is the fact that we have to bridge the gap between ASUN and its students and let them know about these programs, because we have all these great programs, and we continue to have these great programs, but they don't mean nothing if students aren't using this. And that's my point on it, and I believe, again, the sky is the limit on these resources and what the power ASUN can have on this campus.
Thank you. Candidate Harvey, as the next candidate, you will have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. As a land-grant university, college access and affordability are key characteristics of the university. If elected, how would you work to address these core values for your constituents?
Hello. Okay. I think when it comes to access, we definitely need to, as a campus community, stress student-run programs more. It kind of goes back to the civic engagement part, but definitely letting students know of all of these different organizations and clubs and resources that are available to them, so that they can have the greatest college experience possible. Another thing is, I think that this question airs slightly towards the question around student fees, and I think that I'm going to echo candidate Finkler here, that we need to bridge that gap between ASUN and the students, because we need to know, not only as students ourselves, but what the rest of the student body population thinks about raising or lowering student fees. I think that there is a very fine line of where, like, getting the most, the greatest experience out of the student fees, but also keeping it affordable. And then I think the most important aspect of this question is making sure that we have representation of historically underrepresented groups, because when it comes to access and affordability, when the money goes up, these groups are the first people to leave the college environment. So I think that we need to definitely promote more scholarships for underrepresented groups, as well as inform them again on their available resources. As a TRIO scholar, I know that that program has helped me tremendously being a first-generation student. And so if we are to promote programs such as that to the students that are usually underrepresented, then I think that we can augment our access and affordability.
Thank you. Candidate Hassan, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. As a land-grant university, college access and affordability are key characteristics of the university. If elected, how would you work to address these core values for your constituents?
Hello? So affordability is one thing our university is known for. However, the additional costs that may appear as barriers to that can manifest in the form of, let's say, the cost of textbooks, right? I'm sure, at the beginning of every semester, we all kind of feel that hurt. And so one kind of model I've seen that other institutions put into place to address that, to kind of mitigate that financial burden that is put on students at the beginning of every single semester is a library where previous students and people who may still have their textbooks, and even like other organizations who may have access to them, or libraries, they donate these textbooks to this specific library that is usually put up by the university. And those libraries, they rent out those textbooks to students, or they provide those textbooks free of cost. And then those are given back at each semester. It's kind of, like a community library is essentially what it is for textbooks. That kind of, it's self-sufficient and kind of just keeps helping each other. And that's one huge thing I feel like we can do that can mitigate that cost, mitigate that financial burden, and that barrier to that sense of affordability that some people may be lacking, some of our constituents may be lacking. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Supple, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. As a land-grant university, college access and affordability are key characteristics of the university. If elected, how would you work to address these core values for your constituents?
All right, I would say that ASUN needs to let their constituents know that people can get these jobs and scholarships with the university or without the university. I was able to get the opportunity to apply for a scholarship through my job, which is not on campus. So people can do that from whichever way they desire. They can go through the university because the university does offer a lot of scholarships for us, and you can go out. There are other third parties that will be more than happy to give students that money. There's so many. Like my friend has gotten 3, and she is a low-income student, and it really helps, and it does, and we need to let people know. It's hard for low-income and minority students to come and to stay, and I know that's a problem now, and it has been. So we need, just like candidate Harvey has said, and we need to make sure ASUN grabs these opportunities to let constituents know that they have these resources, and we need to, in a way, we need to show it to our constituents more. We need to show it to people who are new to our university, like at orientation. If we let people know, hey, these are available to you, you should go out and reach for them, because even though there might be a low chance of getting it, someone's going to get it. So why not any of our constituents? Why not you? Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Westerman, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. As a land-grant university, college access and affordability are key characteristics of the university. If elected, how would you work to address these core values for your constituents?
I think that it's important to remember that as an ASUN senator, you are representing your constituents, and you're representing what the students want and what they would support. I think that it's a very powerful thing that you can use the students' voices and the students' opinions to really take action in higher levels, such as in Carson City, and in supporting or going against state Senate bills that might affect this accessibility and affordability. Another thing that is important to remember is that in getting these feedback and opinions on what the students need, a lot of important programs were created. For example, something that my previous candidates have mentioned is PAC Provisions. And that continues just to increase its momentum. And in talking to all of these students and receiving these feedbacks, even more programs have been created. For example, a feminine hygiene pilot program was recently created due to feedback that students were having to leave class because they started their periods and couldn't return to class. And by just merely getting that feedback, now potentially that's increasing students' success in classes, which is such a cool thing. And I think that if we can get more feedback like that and create more programs like that, that it would really help a lot of students.
Thank you. Candidate De La Hoya, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. As a land-grant university, college access and affordability are key characteristics of the university. If elected, how would you work to address these core values for your constituents?
I'd first like to say that I think it's a little bit ironic to use the word affordability and college tuition in the same sentence. It's a no-brainer that college tuition is outrageous all across the country. This is something that's really systematically instilled into our economic system that's a little bit hard for ASUN to change. But noting that, as far as ASUN can go, I think everybody touched upon it, is trying to promote more scholarships, especially for minorities and low-income students. A lot of people that are low income or are colored don't think they have the access to college, which is really unfortunate. We all here are very privileged to be sitting here at this university today, just as I am. And there are plenty of people that are in my position that are not. I think that we need to really promote the idea of being inclusive of colored people and minorities of all kinds, LGBTQ, low income, and all that jazz. This is something that I've been thinking about since the question was first announced. How can we really promote affordability? It's a little bit of a difficult thing, and it's a little bit of a stretch. The only thing that I can really say off the top of my head is scholarships, but there's only so much money that's going to be put towards those programs. This is something that I definitely would love to talk to in a group setting on the Senate table. Like I said, I've been trying to think about this for the past 10 minutes. Scholarships, way to go. Definitely promoting programs for people that don't normally get to be seated here where we are today and have the privilege for us to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Doyle, you now have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
So as my fellow peers said, we need to promote scholarships, but on top of that, I believe that ASUN has money set aside for scholarships, and if there's not enough or if there's not at all, we should be promoting that. ASUN can help students. ASUN, that's their job. If they can set aside money for low-income students, for less privileged students, then that would be amazing. Also, if we can go into the community and promote civic engagement and go into schools and say, hey, college is possible. These are the different resources at the University of Nevada. You can go to PAC Provisions. We have the pilot program. We have scholarships. Please come. It's available to every single student. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Finkler, you now have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
So one of the things we've talked about is all what ASUN is currently doing. So my idea is now, what do we do? What more can we do? And one of the things we can look into doing is affordability. Is something that somebody hasn't touched on is housing. Anybody that's ever tried to rent or house near the campus knows how incredibly high the prices are. I know I'm paying a high price. But that also goes with on campus as well, and the residence halls. The residence halls we need to work with and come up with ways to lower the prices for that. So one of the things ASUN can do is go into these associations and advocate for the lowering of prices, as well as going to the city of Reno to work with the surrounding apartment complexes or the property owners around this campus and work into lowering the housing costs for it, because somebody shouldn't have to take out loans just to live up here when a good population of our students don't come from Reno. I know that's one of the main reasons I'm going to be in debt after college, is because of the housing.
Candidate Harvey, you now have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
I'm okay, thank you.
Candidate Hassan, you now have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
So to jump off one of candidate De La Hoya's points, as increasing cost of tuition is it is true that that's a very difficult thing to circumvent. I feel like one thing that we can do as ASUN is to try our best to, I guess offset those costs in the best way possible by using different programs, promoting certain programs like PAC Provisions that was previously discussed, and kind of help when it comes to these basic necessities of living as a student, as a member of the community. That self-sufficient textbook, some kind of model like that, or textbook vouchers, or some whatever kind of models and programs that can be put in place to kind of offset those things that might be more difficult to address directly as a student body, as a student government. Thank you so much.
Candidate Supple, you now have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
All right, I just want to mention that sorry, what other senators have been saying, like PAC provisions is really important and people need to know about that. It's not seen as much and it really should be. And also, again, like we need to promote to our constituents that they can go for some scholarships. We have to outreach to them. We have to show that we have support for them and create bonds with our constituents. Not just being like, hey, it's here, but being like, you can apply for this and I think you can get it. And like at orientation, we should mention scholarships and financial aid, and at Nevada Bound, because that's a good way to help people make a decision whether they're gonna come here or not. Because for some people, it's cheaper for them to come to Reno than to go in their own state, which obviously is such amazing that we can do for them, but I think we should just help give them the opportunity to make it cheaper for them. Thank you.
Candidate Westerman, you now have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
I just want to really briefly touch on a previous topic that has been mentioned, and that is financial aid. I think that financial aid is something that a lot of students rely on for that affordability, and I think that something that the university can do and that ASUN can help with that is kind of increasing that accessibility to that financial aid. A lot of students don't really know how financial aid works. I know I'm one of them. If I didn't have my mom helping me, I wouldn't be able to fill out my financial aid forms on my own. And I think that creating more educational resources for students for that accessibility and affordability is something that we could really help accomplish and increase that for the students.
Candidate De La Hoya, you now have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
I would just like to touch upon again, basically, I think this is more of a social change that needs to happen on the culture of the campus. The ASUN can definitely push. There's definitely not enough color on this campus, and I think there should be, and I think that goes back to college access and affordability. Colored people, minorities, people of low income don't think that this is a choice. And sometimes it really isn't a choice based on this system that money talks for education. I think that it's really important to just let people know that we have to push for colored people to be here. I'd love to see more brown girls on this campus, as it needs to be to further this future for our university and for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. With the completion of the candidate questions, we'll now move on to the audience questions, and we have time for 2 today. We're going to be asking them in the same order that we've been asking the following questions, so the order will shift slightly. So we're going to begin. Candidate Harvey, as the first candidate, you will have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. Per the statutes of the Associated Students, senators are required to do 4 hours of outreach per event. How would you plan to conduct outreach?
I've actually been thinking about this question a lot, once I found out that senators were required to do outreach. And I think that one of the primary ways of doing outreach, the conclusion that I came to, is definitely by just trying to have one-on-one with some of my constituents. I think that it's great to send out a mass email and say, hey, I'm going to be here at Starbucks at this time. But I think that the most important way, and I think the most ideal way to find out what your constituents are looking for in a senator, or what issues that they really want to address, is by talking with them one-on-one, having deep, meaningful conversations with them. And I think that this is definitely one of the primary ways that I'm going to be doing outreach. Another way that is sort of on the back burner, but another way that I would like to do outreach is by attending as many ASUN events as possible, and just getting to know some of my constituents, whether they be in the College of Liberal Arts or whether they just be a UNR student in general, and just kind of know what things they're interested in, what events are most popular on campus, what do the students on our campus like? I think those are 2 of the main ways that I would that I plan on conducting outreach this next term.
Thank you. Candidate Hassan, as the next candidate, you will have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. Per the statutes of the Associated Students, senators are required to do 4 hours of outreach every 2 weeks. How do you plan to conduct outreach?
So when it comes to outreach, one of the main things I feel like that we need to do is going directly to our students and reaching out to them and going to wherever they may be, wherever our constituents may congregate. So there are definitely, I guess, certain organizations and clubs on campus that might primarily be made up of College of Liberal Arts students. And so reaching out to those clubs and organizations and trying to go where they are and letting them know that, hey, I'm here to represent your voice, and I need you to communicate with me so I can represent your voice accurately and effectively, and making sure we get that message across as their representatives, as their the Senate for the College of Liberal Arts. Thank you.
Candidate Supple is the next candidate. You have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. Per statutes of the Associated Students, senators are required to do 4 hours of outreach every 2 weeks. How do you plan to conduct outreach?
I would plan to go talk to clubs and organizations, especially go and attend their events so they know that I, as a senator, support them and things that they are going to reach for. And specifically, as a senator, I don't want to be just seen as a senator. I want to be seen as a student too, because I am one of their peers and I understand the late night studying, all the crazy things that happen, like discrimination, racism, all these problems, big or small, I experience them too. I want to create special bonds with my constituents, not just seen as a senator, but as a friend. Thank you.
Candidate Westerman, as the following candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. Per statutes of the Associated Students, senators are required to do 4 hours of outreach every 2 weeks. How do you plan to conduct outreach?
As my previous candidates have stated, obviously I want to speak with my constituents, see what they think, but I also want to bring that to specific organizations such as the Student Advisory Board for the College of Liberal Arts, or with the Dean Monologue, and talk to her about what the students are thinking, as well as ASUN. But more specifically, I think something that I really want to try to focus if I were to be elected would be with communicating specifically with the arts, and whether it's theater, dance, the visual arts, the performing arts, all of the above. I think they're a very underrepresented group on campus, especially within ASUN. And I think that communicating with as wide of a variety of different students as I can would be the most beneficial for kind of doing what the students want as a representative in ASUN.
Candidate De La Hoya, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. Per statutes of the Associated Students, senators are required to do 4 hours of outreach every 2 weeks. How do you plan to conduct outreach?
Although not a senator currently, I feel like I kind of already do this. I feel like there's a lot to talk about, especially in this political climate in our campus environment. I don't have many friends, which sounds very sad, but it's okay. But whenever I go out and I'm in the KC, I like to talk to people, whether I know them or not, just about how they're feeling and how they're doing in this campus. I like to talk about the work that I do outside of this campus in terms of social justice, and I like to see how these particular social issues affect everybody. There's a lot to talk about, and so I think it's really important to do one-on-one communication with people. I think that social media, a great platform, but I definitely think there's nothing like talking to somebody one-on-one and being relatable and letting them know that you're listening. I feel like a lot of times when people reach out and utilize their voice, they feel like they're not being listened, or they feel as though they're being silenced. I think that's probably the best strategy to go about communicating and doing outreach with our constituents, is just doing one-on-one communication and just talking and listening and being productive. Thank you.
Candidate Doyle, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. Per statutes of the Associated Students, senators are required to do 4 hours of outreach every 2 weeks. How do you plan to conduct outreach?
So currently the College of Liberal Arts does not have a defined building, so there's not a hub where we can go and just talk to College of Liberal Arts students. So we almost have to go out into the university and find them ourselves. One way that we can do that is speaking to classes. You can email a professor and say, hey, can I take 5 minutes of your time? Can I please talk to your students? You can talk to different organizations within the university and say, hey, can I set up a table outside of this building, talk to students, see what they say. Social media is an incredible tool that our society uses. I feel like most of us are addicted to our phones, so why not use it to the best of our ability to ask them about what they think on our campus. I believe outreach is kind of like campaigning, although we can't set up sandwich boards every 2 weeks. If we put as much effort into getting on this table as we did trying to find out what the opinions of students are, we could really make a difference and find out what we need to change on this campus. Thank you.
Candidate Finkler, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following questions. Per the statutes of the associated, students, senators are required to do 4 hours of outreach every 2 weeks. How do you plan to conduct outreach?
So just really quick, kind of history lesson. I was there when the 86th session wrote this statute that they would have to require the 4 hours. So I kind of remember the whole purpose of it was to get senators basically out of the Senate office from holding business hours or office hours, what it originally was, to outreach. And I think a lot of the candidates already talked about it, is basically we need to keep doing the things we're doing for elections. If we can do this for 6 weeks, who says that we can't do it for 52 weeks? I am all for going into different clubs and organizations and finding out what actually is the issues happening on this campus. But it also goes into other things, going to RHA hall meetings and tabling inside of RHA. But with that, we also have to realize that not every single person lives in the dorms. So it's getting involved with maybe the apartment complexes around the university and tabling inside of their buildings and hosting events on their properties to get those students involved, because there's a disconnect between the students that live off campus compared to the students that lived on campus. I think, in my own personal opinion, requiring something of someone is kind of a hindrance. I believe you get not botchy results, but you get some results that aren't genuine. I think as a voter, for everyone that's here and everyone watching, you should be voting for a person that would do this without the requirements. And I think a lot of us and all of us have done this already during this election. So first I want to say we're all qualified to do that per the statutes. My biggest thing is, again, just reaching out to clubs and orgs, RHA, but also getting away from our colleges too. That's another point I want to talk about is, yes, we're the senators for liberal arts, but at the Senate table, we're voting on legislation that affects every single person on this campus. So it means going to other colleges and other clubs and orgs that deal with other colleges and find out what issues are troubling them, and you'll come to find out the two actually coincide and how we can speak for all students, not just liberal arts.
Candidate Harvey, you have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
So when I first think of outreach hours as a senator, my initial thoughts were outreach to my constituents, but I now realize that I don't think there's anything against community outreach, and I think that would be a really amazing thing if we as senators could do not only outreach within the university, but within the community on a bigger level. According to the No Walls 2025 strategic plan, one of the key components in that is no walls within our community. And I think that a great way to conduct outreach, weekly outreach within the community, is to go to the surrounding middle schools, elementary schools, high schools, because they are not just the future of our community, but the future of our university as well. So if we can find out the kind of issues that they're interested in, I think that would be really applicable for our constituents as well as for the benefit of the rest of the community.
Candidate Hassan, you have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
So one thing we're constantly taught at work in regards to outreach is to meet them where they're at. And I don't mean that in terms of like location, even though that is really important, but in terms of how we communicate with them, how we communicate with our constituents. And as said previously, the best way to do that is to communicate with them, as a senator, is to communicate with them as a student, to let them know, like, hey, I want your complete and honest opinion as a fellow student. Pretty much, how do you feel about things going on? What do you think needs to be solved? And how do you feel about that? And I can give them, and I can give you my honest opinion as well. And so kind of being able to facilitate an honest conversation as not as just a fellow student here, as said previously, like a friend. And so I think that's one of the biggest things in terms of that, to meet them where they're at in whatever way possible. Thank you.
Candidate Supple, you have an opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
I would just like to say that constituents aren't going to come to us. It's not their job. It's our job to go to them. We need to let constituents know what's going on at the Senate table. We need to let them know about issues that are going on in our university and get their opinions and apply it at our Senate table and really cooperate and make our university better. Thanks.
Candidate Westerman, you now have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
Something that a lot of the previous candidates had mentioned is communication, and that communication between senators and our constituents, if we are to be elected. And as candidate Doyle mentioned, we live in a very social media centric age. Almost everyone here is on social media. So I think that one way that would be super beneficial into getting honest feedback from our constituents would be to possibly send out a Google form asking students' opinions, where they can quickly write down something that's concerning them and like not have to maybe have the courage to say it to your face, because I know a lot of people maybe think that it's scary to tell a senator something that they think is wrong with something ASUN is doing. So that's one way that I think we can increase communication.
Candidate De La Hoya, you have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
I think it's really important to us as senators or potential senators to reach out to groups that normally wouldn't reach out to ASUN. I've had the opportunity to work with a couple of different clubs that, with no offense, they don't see any value in ASUN and the fact that they think that they don't do enough for this community and for this campus. And I feel like that's what a lot of people feel like, but I think we need to reach out to those people and let them know that we do have the power to do change, and talk to those people. Because I think there's a bad reputation that's set with ASUN, and I think we need to re-image that. So talking to clubs like YDS or any other club that thinks that there's no power in ASUN, and let them know that we want to talk and we need to communicate, I think is really important. And having an effective conversation is also very important. Thank you.
Candidate Doyle, you have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
So just to build off my fellow candidates, I want to mention that it's really easy to pass someone by. You can walk by through an elevator, through the Joe, through anything, and not say a word to them. It's so easy just to be quiet. But having the courage to speak up and talk to those people, even when it might be awkward, is really what outreach is kind of all about. You want to talk to the people who you wouldn't even know you could talk to. So even if they're not in your college, as candidate Flinkler said, you can access important information because everybody has their own opinion and everybody has their own experience here on the university, and it's our job to not only find out how they feel, but also make it the best experience possible that they can. Thank you.
Candidate Finkler, you have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
So yeah, we've all touched on it. Social media is a huge thing. That's why if you were to go on the website and you look at my goals, one of the goals is posting more on social media. I would have just my candidate page continue on after elections if elected, as well as doing actual physical postings. We have physical ASUN postings that we just post agendas to, which for the person that's never been in ASUN, they don't understand the whole Robert's Rule of Order. They don't know actually what's going on. So I would create actual, layman's term posting that literally says, this is what's happening, this is what's going on, and this is how we can help you. And if you have any questions, contact us. As well as I would continue digital postings. Anyone that follows me on Instagram today saw that I was taking questions for all those that can't be here tonight. So I would continue this throughout the whole actual candidacy process and into being elected senator, because I feel like the things we do during campaigning, sometimes we just forget about it and then we just go into actual senator mode, when actually these are the things that got us into being actual senators. We need to continue doing that.
Thank you all for those great responses. We now have the second audience question. Candidate Hassan, as the first candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. What makes you the most qualified candidate for the position?
So I do think that all my fellow candidates are definitely qualified to represent the students of the College of Liberal Arts. One thing I feel like that makes me stand out is that, I have a very extensive history in terms of advocacy, of trying to be a voice and speaking to the community on behalf of people who feel like they are voiceless. And so that's kind of what the last year and a half of my employment has been. That's what I've done. That's what my entire life has somewhat been around. In terms of advocacy as well, and other things are, being engaged on campus in terms of being the executive director of the Black Student Organization. That's a group that constantly does feel like, they are not represented and they want their voice heard. And so kind of creating a platform, creating a platform for them, creating an environment that does seem open and honest and is, provide a willingness to want to cooperate and want to work with them and want to advance your community as a whole, whether that be the community at large or your community on campus, and taking those necessary steps. And so I've been through that process, and I hope I get to continue to go through that process, but this time as a senator for the College of Liberal Arts. Thank you.
Candidate Supple, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. What makes you the most qualified candidate for the position?
Just like candidate Hassan said, I think everyone here at this table is very qualified to be a senator. I just want to say that for me, I'm so passionate about ASUN. I see myself in office in the future. Like, that's something I really want to do, and I want to start it here with my college. ASUN is something that made me want to stay at the university personally. I felt out of sorts when I first came here, and then I applied for my judicial internship, and that's where I met so many great people. So many of my friends are in ASUN, and I just love it so much. I would do anything for anyone in ASUN. I want to do the work. I want to get involved. I want to reach out. Like, I love to talk to people, and anyone who knows me would know that I also do like to talk a lot, so it's not something I'm afraid to do to anyone. I love to be involved. This is something that I really, really do love to do, and I just want to make it positive. I want to help these people. I want to make ASUN better seen. I want people to feel safe in our school. I want them to know this is a home for them, and I'm just so passionate about ASUN. Like, this is something that I want to do and I can do. Thank you.
Candidate Westerman, as the following candidate, you will have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. What makes you the most qualified candidate for the position?
As everyone stated, everyone here is very qualified. However, I do have a set of previous experiences that does make me believe that I am one of the most qualified candidates here. I first want to start by talking about my involvement in the College of Liberal Arts specifically, as this is a seat for the College of Liberal Arts. I am a member of the Student Advisory Board. Basically what that means is I collaborate with students of the College of Liberal Arts and the advisors of the College of Liberal Arts, as well as the Dean Monologue, to kind of address issues that the students may have with the advisors and kind of figure out the best situations on how to deal with those issues. Additionally, I have experience with Nevada Fit, which, if you don't know, it's a freshman intensive program specifically for liberal arts, is the Liberal Arts Fit. And I actually currently have the opportunity to work with Akila, the woman in charge of Liberal Arts Fit, and Dean Modelmog to kind of shape what Nevada Fit is going to look like for liberal arts students in the future. I've had the opportunity to speak with a variety of freshmen about their experiences and kind of work out the details of what is the most beneficial for student success here at the university as a liberal arts student. Moving on to my experience in ASUN, I was previously a legislative intern. I had the opportunity to work with a mentor who is a senator. I worked on a number of different articles of legislation and ideas to improve the university based on students' opinions. And I also had the opportunity to apply for an open Senate position for the College of Liberal Arts, where I presented the same lists of experiences that I presented to you. I was up against 7 other candidates and myself and one other candidate to receive the position, and I've been working with Senate ever since then, and I love it. In addition, I do have arts representation. I'm a theater major, and I believe I can bring the representation of the School of the Arts to the table.
Candidate De La Hoya, as the next candidate, you will have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. What makes you the most qualified candidate for the position?
I believe there are 3 characteristics that I have that make me the most qualified candidate up here. I think that I have a lot of passion and a lot of drive, and I take initiative. I think regardless if I get this position or not, I'm not going to stop doing the work that I'm doing for social justice. That'll never stop. I think in terms of qualifications of things that I've worked on previously, I've worked on a legislative team for the Humane League, also pushing for legislation in California for the cosmetic animal testing ban, which is brilliant that we got passed recently. I also am the president for the Young Feminists, where we're trying to launch a campaign for sexual assault in terms of the Title IX changes that are occurring right now. I'm also the president of Nevada Voice for Animals, where we launch campaigns based on the basis of animal welfare issues on this university. And I've also lobbied for the Lupus Foundation of America. I have a lot of experience with legislation and policymaking, and I think that I was a little bit uncertain about running for ASUN, to be perfectly honest. I think that I was told once that my goals are too big for ASUN. Social justice is a huge thing to tackle, and I'm sure a lot of people are hearing me talk and they're like, she's a social justice girl, what is she doing? Like, why does she want to do university policy? But I am a true believer in the fact that I think university ground is the domino effect for change that we need, and we oh so desperately need it. I think that's the only reason why that I'm truly here. I feel like there's not enough push for social justice on this campus, and I think that I highlight that probably to the max, and that's something that I need to change, and I want to change, and I want to change with all these senators for the next session. Thank you.
Candidate Doyle, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. What makes you the most qualified candidate for the position?
As everyone stated, of course, everyone up here is definitely qualified. I believe that I am outgoing, hardworking, and I'm not afraid to go outside my comfort zone. I've worked underneath Speaker Pro Tempore Hughes, and I was able to learn almost the ropes of the legislative branch inside of ASUN. One statement that I kind of want to live by is you don't need to have the title to do the same work. So even if I am not able to gain the position here, I still want to be able to make a difference on my campus. In the future, this is just a start for my future. In my career path, I would still like to make a difference in people's lives and their community, and I want to start here on the campus and make a difference here so that everybody has the best college experience that they're able to. I'd love to make an impact and put in as much effort as possible, so almost my drive is what sets me apart than the other candidates up here. Thank you.
Candidate Finkler, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. What makes you the most qualified candidate for the position?
So yeah, to again represent everybody else, everyone is qualified up here. But at the same time, I feel like we all have the same qualities. We're all passionate, we're all outgoing. If we weren't, we wouldn't be here right now. So to me, the question is, what separates you from the rest of the pack? And me, it's my dedication to ASUN. For those who don't know, I got involved with ASUN my freshman year immediately when I started. I ended up running for elections last year and then ended up losing. I didn't quit. I then applied for positions in the executive branch. I applied for 6 positions and didn't get a single one. I didn't quit. I got involved with the executive branch this past year, and I'm running for elections again. Some people say I'm crazy. Some people say I just love ASUN, and I love ASUN. This is why I'm here. As well as my other experiences outside of ASUN, which makes me the most qualified candidate, is my management skills. For those that don't know, I am currently the president of my fraternity, and I manage over 25 plus men and a budget of thousands of dollars, which I have increased our involvement in community service, as well as our member retention and our GPA for the fraternity as well. And working with the rest of my men in my fraternity and in getting all of us better men on this campus, as well as my other positions. I've been on the LC for the RHA halls my freshman year. I've gotten involved outside of ASUN. I helped campaign for one of the parties for this past election. I'm very, very qualified. That's just what I'm going to say right now, is I have the dedication and the qualifications to be the best liberal arts senator that can represent this college, because once we get into actual the session of the ASUN Senate, after some training, I'm hitting the ground and I'm going. I still have plans and goals of legislation that I had for last year's session that I'm going to be implementing day one. And with the ASUN only being a year long and as many changes as we all want to do, a year is just not enough time, so you got to go straight off from the first day.
Candidate Harvey, as the next candidate, you have 2 minutes to respond to the following question. What makes you the most qualified candidate for the position?
As many of my other candidates, we all represent some kind of underrepresented group, and I think that, I mean, myself, I'm a first gen, I'm a woman up here, and I'm in the smallest major program that the college offers. But I think that, I really believe that regardless of, you know, what minority you represent, how much leadership experience you have, what titles you own, none of this really matters unless you have a very deep found sense of empathy and understanding for the people that you're going to represent. And I think that is what makes me the best candidate for this position, because I truly deeply value the human experience. And I think that unless you can value the human experience just as a person, not even as a leader, you'll never be able to be an effective senator. And despite my own goals, my greatest passion is to understand understand other people, understand humanity. So I really will genuinely represent my constituents as accurately as I possibly can because of that, and that's why I believe that I'm the best candidate for this position.
Thank you all for those great responses. Candidate Hassan, you now have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
So I'd just like to say that with the organizations that I've luckily been able to be a part of and been able to work with and who I have been able to represent, that the amount of time I've been here at the university has provided me with a lot of experience, a very diverse experience, I'd like to say. And I've been able to empathize with a lot of individuals and communicate with a lot of individuals and get to see a variety of differing points of views and of what this university could be, of what this university can be, and where we could end up, essentially. And so I want to do my best with with the experiences I've already accumulated and the experiences I've already accumulated and who I've been able to talk to be able to apply that as a senator, and be able to represent as many people as possible, as well as to represent my constituents, our future constituents, as a Senator for the College of Liberal Arts, as well as a voice for the university as a whole, both on campus and in the community at large. Thank you.
Candidate Supple, you have an opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
As I mentioned earlier in the night, I'm a first-year student, so I obviously would not be as involved as Candidate Hassan here. But one thing I am involved in is ASUN. I know everyone here is willing to go above and beyond, and as am I. Once I get at the Senate table, I want to start the work. I want to go out to my constituents. I want to continue doing the things that I do now and make something of it. Right now, as a Judicial Council intern, there's not much that I can do. I'm only an intern, but as a senator, there's so much that I want to do. Even though there are limits to what ASUN senators can do, I want to push some, I want to see what I can reach, and I want to do my best to represent all my constituents. Thank you.
Candidate Westerman, you have an opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
I want to add that I think that all of the previous experiences that I've had here at the university definitely show my passion and dedication, not only for the liberal arts, but for ASUN. I have a lot of projects that I want to get started, and even though I have the platform currently as a senator, I hope to finish them as a future senator if I were to be elected. And regardless of being elected, I want to finish those projects, so I think that just shows even more of my passion and dedication.
Candidate De La Hoya, you have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
I just want to first say that I really appreciate that we have a gender race identity person up here, for sure. I love seeing that, and I wanted to say that all night, so here we are. As far as me being one of the greater candidates up here, there's nothing more that I can say other than the passion and the work that I do. I know we all have a lot of things that we want to change, but the things that I have in mind, we need to change, and we need to change them now. So I think that, especially in terms of sexual assault, that's something that's happening right here, right now, that we need to change now, and that should be top priority. So, I mean, all of these people up here are really great, and will be effective senators, but I really think that my passion and love for social justice and the need for social justice is at the top. And and if I don't get elected, I want somebody up here to definitely take charge in social justice, please. Thank you.
Candidate Doyle, you have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
No, thank you.
Candidate Finkler, you have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
So again, this question is basically a job interview question. What most qualifies you for the position? This is exactly how it was written. And again, just reiterating my stuff is my campus involvement. In 2 years, I am a second-year sophomore who did not grow up in Reno. This is my first time in Northern Nevada. My involvement is my qualifications: fraternity and sorority life, RHA, political life outside the campus, as well as I work on campus and have that sphere. On top of that, I am also involved in another college. I am a double major in secondary education and poli-sci, so I'm also part of education, so I bring that other aspect to the Senate table. Like I mentioned earlier, you're not only representing liberal arts here, you're representing every other college on this campus, because you're the Senate of the Associated Students, not the Senate of the Associated whatever college you are, of the Associated Students of the University of Nevada. That's one of the biggest things, is the qualifications. So when you go to the polls and you think about who's the most qualified, that's why I believe I'm the most qualified, is my involvement and my experience with ASUN.
Candidate Harvey, you have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal.
I just wanted to say good job and good luck to my fellow candidates for the rest of the election season. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for participating. Let's give a big round of applause for our candidates here. And thank you to everyone that came in the audience and is watching the live stream. It's important to be engaged in this process.